your same module, that is quality systems in IT, and with the same chapter, that is chapter number 4, that is quality management system. In the last class, we have discussed some topics for chapter number 4, like what are the various steps that is used for the quality management system, like identifying the requirements, gathering the requirements, and these are the 4 steps, these are the 4 approaches that is used for the documentation part that we have discussed in the last class. So let's start with this one only, then move to the next topic, that is for the documented procedure. So let's start with the document analysis. So these are the 4 approaches that is used for the documentation, that is necessary for the documentation part. So the first part is the document analysis, that is how we can analyze the document. Document analysis, that is also a documentation, that is also a part of the documentation. Then applying the control model. So the next part that is available is applying the control model, that is how we can apply the control model, or what are the various categories in which we can apply the control model. Then applying the Kipling's law, then applying the process approach. So what is the process approach that is available in this? So first one is the document analysis, that is how we are using the document analysis. What are the various approaches that is required for the document analysis? So first of all, conduct a search of the relevant standard that reference to the documentation. That what is the main standard, what are the various standards that is used for the reference to the documentation, that is the first part. Then respond to the requirements of the standards with operational policies. Then identify where documents will be needed to implement these policies. So what are the various policies that is available for the documentation? That is conduct a search of the relevant standard for the references to the documentation part. Then respond to the requirements of the standards with operational policies. What are the various operational policies that is applicable? Then identify where documents should be needed to implement these policies. Then chart the processes and identifying where documents are needed to convey inputs and the output. That is what are the various documents, or where we should put the documents for the input and the output. Record the actions and results in carrying out the tasks and activities involved. So what are the various tasks that should be involved in the document analysis? Then how to apply the control model. This is the generic control model that we have discussed, that there is a requirement, there is a plan out, there is a do, there is a corrective action, there is a remedial action. That is how we are using the corrective action, how we are using the remedial action. There is a check, there is a confirm, there is a product or the service. That is a generic model of the requirement, generic model of the information that is used for the product or the service. And by asking some key questions derived from the model, we can relieve the essential documents. So what are the various essential documents that can be revealed? So what do we have to do? That is, what are the various steps that we have to do? Then how will we make it happen? That is, what are the various steps that is making happen? Then what do we do? That is, what are the various steps that we do? Then how will we write, or how we will know it is right? How we can prove it is right? So these are the various questions that is answered for the essential document, for the essential part of the documentary, that is developing the model, that is a generic model. And the generic model can be applied at the 4 level. What are the 4 level? One is at the system level, then there is a business process level, then task level, then activity level. So we can say the generic control model can be applied, or could be applied at the 4 levels. What are the 4 levels that on which the generic control model is applied? That is the system level, then business process level, then task level, there is a activity level. So these are the 4 levels that will be used for the generic control models. Then applying the Kipling's law, that is what is the Kipling law? That is used for the honesty, that is used for the friend, that is known as the Kipling law. And for entry and the exit, we establish the Kipling's law. So this is the Kipling law example, that is what are the inputs, what resources are required. Then process approach model, that is the next part. So these are the 5 questions that we answered in the process control or process approach method. That is, what are you trying to do? That means, what's your main purpose? What's your main target? And how do you make it happen? So how it is possible to use the process approach method? Then how do you know make it happen? That is, how do you know make it happen or no? Then how do you know it's right? So whether you know that this is correct or no, then how do you know it is the best way to do it? So how do you know this is the best way to do it or no? This is the right method to do it or no? And how do you know it is the right thing to do? So it is the best way, it is the right thing, You can identify the various process approach methods that will be discussed, that will be identified to answer the 5 key questions that will be applicable to manage the process, or to manage or to identify whether the process is managed effectively or not. Then next part, that is the today's topic, is the documented procedure. So what are the various documented procedure that is carried out? So the standard requires the management system documentation to include the documented procedure. So whenever we use the documentation, so there is a documented procedure that is required by the ISO 9001. So that means that is like a document when you want to take the admission, there are some document that is submitted. So that is also a part of the document procedure. So the standards require the management documentation to include the documentation or documented procedure that is required by the ISO 9000. That means what are the various procedures, what are the various guidelines, or what are the various documents that is required by the, or that is required by the ISO 9001 standard. Now, what does this mean? So this means that ISO defines a procedure, that means a method, or we can say the way, as a specified way to carry out an activity or a process. That means ISO defines a way, that is their own way, we can say the method by which they carry out their activity or the process, that is a documented procedure. And this definition is ambiguous because activity is on a different scale than a process, because activity is what we are doing on a different scale than the process, and process outputs are dependent upon many factors of which activities are. So what are the various factors that will be discussed? That will be discussed by the activities of many factors that will be discussed in this one. And activity is the smallest unit of the work. So what is an activity? That is the smallest unit of the work, and several activities accomplish a task, and several tasks reflect the stages. That means there are various activity that becomes a task, and various tasks become the stages in a process, but there is more to a process than a series of the tasks to be addressed in the chapter. So what are the various procedures? What are the various tasks that should be addressed? We can say what are the various methods that should be addressed in adopting the procedures, in adopting the method while developing the documented procedures. And there are few approaches, very few approaches that is required by the standard, but it does not imply you don't need to produce any other. This does not mean that you need to produce any other method. So the specific procedures required are, so what are the various specific procedures that is required are? That is a documented procedure for the document control. So there is a documented procedure that is carried out for the documented control. Then documented procedure for the control of the record. So what are the various records that should be developed? So one is a procedure that is carried for the document control. One is a procedure that is carried for the control of the records. One for conducting the audit, then non-conformity control, then corrective action, then preventive action. So these are the various procedures that will be carried out with the various controls. So that is the document control. Then there is a control of the reads. Then there is a conducting audit. Then there is a non-conformity control, then there is a corrective action, then there is a preventive action. So these are the we can say the 6 procedures that will be followed for the documentation. That is a specific procedure, that is a document control, control of the records, conducting audits, non-conformity control, then corrective actions, and there is a preventive action. And these areas all have something in the common. That is, what is the something in common? That is there is a common procedure that is used for the system procedures that we can say that is applied to the whole system, not the one system, and not even the product process or the customer specific. So that can be applied on a whole system, that can be applied on a full system. That is uncommon for the customer to specify the requirement that could impact these areas. Now next question is why procedures are followed, or why there is an impact of the ISO 9000 standard. So that is one of the best example that is required, that why it is this necessary. That means why is this necessary? That is what is the main aim of the, or what is the main target of the process approach model. So it is uncertain why the authors of the ISO 9000-2000 deemed it necessary to require any specific procedure. So if there is any specific procedure that is discussed when there is a general requirement for the system to be documented. So it is uncertain, or we can say it is not certain why the authors of the ISO 9000 deemed it necessary to require any specific procedures when there is a general requirement over the system to be documented. That is, what are the various system requirements that is to be documented? This should have been sufficient, and clearly the procedures are required so that the system can execute tasks with consistency, economy, repeatability, uniformity, but there is no logical reason why procedures are required for the above 6 subjects. Now, or how, what are the various 6 subjects that is discussed in the clause number 7? We have already discussed. So, why it is necessary? Because it is necessary to require a specific procedure. That what is a specific procedure that is carried out for the various activities, and there is a general requirement for the system to be documented. Because whenever I need a documentation, that means we need a future records, we need some policies, procedure that is implemented. So there is a specific procedure when there is a generic requirement, or there is a general requirement for the system to be documented. Now the next question is, how is this implemented? Right? How? So why there is a necessity? There is a one question, and how it is implemented? What are the various steps, or what are the various methods that is by which we can implement it? So how it is implemented? So the one solution is to produce the 6 procedures as required, and in fact many ISO 9000 based systems are likely to include such procedures. So there is nothing now there. So there is nothing now there that is applicable for the ISO 9000 standards. And the question is, why would you want to do this when in all aspect you have documented your processes? So why you all need this, or what is the main requirement of all these things? So document control is a work process or a number of work processes. So what is the document control? That is a work process or a number of work processes, because the inputs passes through a number of stages, that is adding the value to the result in the defined objective. So what are the various defined objectives that is carried out? And what are the various, we can say, the stages? Now these stages are the acquisition, approval, publication, distribution, storage, maintenance, improvement, and disposal stages. So these are the few stages that is carried out for the defined objectives. What are the various stages? That is the acquisition, then approval, then publication, distribution, storage, maintenance, improvement, and disposal of the disposal stages. Now these are not tasks but processes that achieve defined objectives and involve both physical and financial human resources that is required for this one, that is required for the human resources. Within these processes are tasks, each of which may require the documented procedures as they are initiated. So whatever the document procedures, whatever the argument that is carried out, so that require the documented procedure to be documented. And the control of the records is also a work process that is similar to the document control. So whatever the document control, whatever the procedure that is carried out for the document control. So that is the first one is the control of the records. Then there is the auditing, that is a process with the defined objective, and without provision of the competent personnel and the suitable environments, audits will not achieve their objectives. Audits will not achieve their objectives by the time the procedure is implemented. Then there is a non-conformity control, that is like a controlling of the record, that is a process for the same that is used in this one. And there is a preventive action that remains one of the most misunderstood requirement of the ISO 9000, because it is mistaken for the corrective actions, but that is used in the chapter number this one. Next is document that ensure the effective planning, operation, and control of the processes. So what are the various documents that is required for the effective planning, for the effective operation, and for the effective control of the processes? So what are the various documents that is used? The standard requires management system documentation to include documents that is required by the organization to ensure the effective planning, operation, and control of its processes. So what are the various documents that is required by the organization to ensure that there is effective planning, there is effective operation, and there is a control of its processes? Now, what does this mean? So the document that is required for the effective planning operation would include several types of documents. So what are the various documents that is used for the various processes? Some will be the product and the process specific, and other will be common to all the processes, that is common to all the processes, rather than stipulate this document that are needed. So ISO 9001 now provides for the organization to decide what is needed for the effective operation and the control of the processes. So what are the various documents that is needed for the effective operation and for the effective processes? And this phase is the key to determining the document that are needed. So what are the various documents that is needed for this one? So these are the various policies and the practices. So first one is the process descriptions, then there is a references, then there is a policies, then control procedures, then guides, then operating procedures, then standards, then national international standards, public data that includes the external inference. So these are the various, first of all, the policies and the procedures. And there is an external reference document, there is a derived document that includes the plans, records, reports. This is the relationship between the various documents. So these are the various documents, that is references, operating systems, operating guides, specifications. And there are three types of control document that is illustrated. That is policies and the practices, document derived from these policies and the practices such as drawings, specifications, plans, work instruction, technical procedures and report. Then there is an external document that is referenced in either of the above. So what are the various external document that is required for the control document that is used for the control document? And there will always be exceptions to this model, but in general the majority of the document used in management system can be classified in this way. Now what are the classification of the document? That is a control and the uncontrolled document. So these are the categories of the document. So there are two categories of the document. One is a control document, one is an uncontrolled document. So control document includes the policies and the procedure. That is, what are the various policies, what are the various procedures that is followed, that is part of the control document. Policy procedure also provide the derived documents, and that also categories of the, or we can say the control document also divided into the reference documents. That means there are reference document that includes a contract, standards, guides that is used as a contract or control document. And there is a perspective document, there is a descriptive document. So there are multiple documents that is a part of the control document. We can say that everyone, that is whatever the legal document that is we are using, that is a part of the control documents. That includes the policies and the practices, derived documents, reference document that includes the contracts, standards, guides. There is a perspective document, there is a descriptive document, there is a specification, plans, schedule, procedure, instructions. That is a perspective documents. And for the descriptive document, there is the intentions, there is a record that is available for the descriptive documents. And there is a proposals, there is a brochures that is used for the intention, there is a record that is used for the certificates, results, reports, minutes of the meeting, that is a part of the records. So this is also, we can say, the category of the descriptive and category of the derived and category of the control document. So these are the sub documents or subcategory of the control document that is applicable, that is available in the documents. And there is an uncontrolled document that is also available, that includes the memoranda, letters, notebooks, diaries, calendar. So these are the various uncontrolled document that is available. That is also a part of the, we can say, the category of the uncontrolled document. That is a memoranda, that is a letter, then notebook, diaries, calendars. So this is the classification of the document that is available. And derived documents are those that is derived by executing the processes. So if there is any process that is derived, if any process that is applicable, that is derived by executing the processes, that is, we can say, the derived documents that includes a memorandum. So if there is anything happens, then there is a memorandum issues, there is a letter, notebook, diaries, calendar. That is an uncontrolled document. So that is not in controllable state, that is uncontrolled documents. And these are, there are two types of derived document, that is a perceptive and the descriptive document. So this is the derived document, that is a two type, perceptive and the prescriptive and the descriptive document, that includes the procedure, schedule, and so on. Now why it is necessary to, we can say, the divide into multiple categories of the document. So why it is necessary? So this requirement respond to the process approach principle. That means we are following the process and control principle or process approach principle while using the classification of the documents. And the degree of documentation varies from a simple statement of facts to the detail, that is how the specific activities to be carried out. That is how we are getting the specific activities, how we are following the specific activities for the process approach principle. To document everything you do will be or you do would be impractical and of little value. And there are multiple reasons that is used for documenting information. Now, what should be documented? That is, what should be documented for this one? What are the various procedures that should be documented? That is also a part of the process approach principle and how it is implemented. So identification of the documentation needs was addressed under documenting a quality management system. So that is how we are following or how we are addressing the documenting or how we are addressing the quality management system, that is documenting a quality management system. So there are multiple documents that is a part of the quality management principle. Now, what are the documents? First is the policies that we have already discussed. That what are the policies? So if I want to implement something in my organization, what are the policies? We can say that what are the rules, regulation that will be carried out while implementing or while denoting the organization behavior. That is various types of policies and the practices that is illustrated in 4.8. Then policies are essential in ensuring the effective planning of the processes because they lay down the rules to be followed to ensure that actions and decisions taken in the design and operation that serves the business objective. That is what is the main objective of carrying out the policies and why we are using or why I'm using the policies procedure that is used to serve the business objective. And any statement that made by the management at any level that is designed to constrain the actions and the decisions that is a part or that affects the policies. And these are the policies. One is a corporate policy, then there is an operational policy, then there is a control procedures that is defined. So these are the various policies that is defined the overall intentions of the procedures regarding its purpose, mission. So whatever the mission, whatever the policies that is defined, then there is operational policies that define the strategy and the boundary condition. So what are the various strategic, what are the various boundary conditions that is followed for the policies? What are the various control procedures that is used for the policies? Define the actions, decisions that is required to control the flow of product information through the processes that is work done by it. That is the policies. So there is a corporate policy, there is a operational policy, there is a control procedures. And there are different types of policy that may impact the business processes. What are the different types of policies that is required, that is used? One is a government policy that is translated into the states of or statute of the that can be applied to the commercial enterprise. Then there is a corporate policy. So one is a government policy, there is a corporate policy. That is environmental policy, financial policy, marketing policy, investment policy. These are the various categories of the policy that is also a part of the corporate policy. So first is the government policy, then corporate policy that includes the environmental policy, financial policy, marketing, investment, expansion, and so on. Then after government, after corporate, there is a operational policy that applies to the operations of the business such as design, procurement, manufacture, service, and the quality assurance. That is the operational policy. So one is government, then corporate, then operational policy. That includes the pricing policy, product policy, production policy, servicing policy. So that is a part of the operation policy. That is what are the policies that is required for making the system as operational. That is the operational policies. Then there is a department policies that applies on one department, such as the particular rules a department manager may impose to allocate the work, review the output, monitor the progress. Then industry policies that applies to a particular industry, such as the codes of the price set or practice set that is used by the trade associations for a certain trade. That is industry policy. So one is the department policy, industry policy, operational policy. So these are the various policies that is used for the industry, that is used for the departments. And all policies set boundary conditions so that actions and decisions are channeled along a particular path to fulfill a purpose or achieve an objective. Whatever the objective, whatever the purpose that is applicable, that is used for the policies, that is used for the requirements. And policies enables the management to operate without constant intervention, and when established, that is used for the framework that is used for this one. Now, what are the various reasons for documenting your operational policies? First is corporate policies need to be practical terms that is implemented through procedures, that is setting the boundaries, setting the managers to control the event in advance. So these are the various reasons why we are managing the policy or why there is a freedom to the individual in the execution of their duties to make the decisions within the defined boundaries and avoid over control by the manager. That is, what are the various control that is defined by the managers and what are the various policies that is defined by the manager. So where the limit of the job or their job lie, they cannot feel free to act. So there is no feel to free to act. That is, what are the various decision that is capable of that is carried out by the policies. And policies also enable managers to exercise the control by operations, by exceptions. So what are the various exceptions that is used for every action, for every decision that is used of the subordinate, self-control by the subordinate. And process or policies also enables the manager to control the event in the advance. So what are the various events that will be applicable in advance? That is, what are the various events that will be used in advance? After something has happened to cause the dissatisfaction. And one has to be create the scene of the event to be respond once getting the situation approaches the limit. So whatever the limit, whatever the approaches that is used, that is respond to the situation that is used, and this is a costly use of the manager's time. The reasons above may not be appropriate in the organization that have a strong value-based culture, and rules are appropriate to a command and control culture. So what are the rules that is appropriate to the command and control culture? And therefore these principles need to be applied with the care. So whatever the principle that need to be applied with the care, that is one of the reason in the organization that have a strong value-based culture. In all the cases, you need to ask, what would be the effect on our performance as an organization? So what is the main impact, or what would be the effect on our performance as an organization if this were not be documented? So if this is not documented, that is applicable, that is used for the performances, that is used in the organization. And if the answer is nothing or a response such as, well, somebody might do XYZ, that is used, that we cannot predict with certainty, that is what is happening, what will happen, that should be prevented. Leave the people free to choose their own path. So whatever the path, whatever the command that is applicable, that is used for the control cultures. And however, when we use a control culture, that do not write everything down, as policies are needed only for the important matters, because it does not mean that if the employee is not doing well, so you write a policy. No, no, no. That is only the rules regulation that is built only when something wrong happen, when any circumstances can happen at the time, when there is any rare condition will happen into the picture. A common practice is to paraphrase the requirements of the ISO 9001. So to paraphrase the ISO 9001 standards, that is used as operational policy statements, and while this approach does provide the direct correlation with ISO 9000, it renders the exercise futile because users can read the same things by referring to the ISO 9000. So this is a common policy to the ISO 9000, because the policies, or we can say the rule regulation of the ISO, is like a policy that is applicable, and the operational policies should respond to the needs of the organization and not paraphrase the standards. Next topic is process description, that I'm going to start within the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class. So